to Atlantic Ocean, upon me hills, to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Gotta school me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. This is FOL. This is Friday Night Debate. J. Victor Nangbe sitting in for Dennis Ja. It is an honor and pleasure to welcome our panelists tonight. Helping me to unpack the issues will be, of course, my best friend, Mohammed Sharif. Mohammed, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Also, my sister here, she's been away for a little while. It's good to welcome her back. Sister Alice Wilson, welcome back. Moba.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
Okay, and Brother Josh Brunel, it's good to have you. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good to
And
be
of course, I'm sorry, I hope I didn't step on you there. Okay.
here. No, I said thank you. It was good to be here. That's all I said.
Absolutely. And Brother Carter Gabriel, welcome, man. Let's get the show on the road.
Thank you. I'm just
Yeah,
playing
so
my
tonight-
car right now. So
Thank you very much. Tonight, our producers are giving us about a couple of topics, although we will discuss our current issues, but there are also some specific topics we'll try to drill down on. So we'll look at the Ivanhoe letter to the president of Liberia, relative, we know, to the HPX and the Asalametel Brouhaha. And then we'll look at the credentialing system. Lately, a lot of credential questions have been in the press. A couple of months back, it was the Doug Cooper scenario, which we all know has led to the dismissal of a number of people from the University of Liberia. And then over the past few days, there are also credential questions of some of our medical personnel, including lately Dr. Peter Josh. And so we'll talk about that, what needs to happen, what should have happened, who is responsible. And then we'll take a look at the president, President Boakai. We know every leader has that one leader they emulate. Is he walking in the footsteps of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, his immediate past boss, or is he walking in the footsteps? Is he beginning to look and act like Josh Manawia? We'll talk about that. Then, of course, we'll round up with concerns that are cropping up relative to mining. How are these permits given out? There's a lot of mining going on all around the country, but this mining seems to be happening illegally. There are concerns about what's happening in River G in Bapulu. I am aware of some mining happening also in my home district of Barobo. Who are these people? How do they get in these places? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is our task for the night. I'm glad you're here to help me. Let's begin with the Ivanhoe Atlantic's letter to the president. As you know, this has been in the press for a while. There is some $5 billion or so that HPX, I think, that's related to this Ivanhoe Atlantic, is promising to invest in Liberia, and the negotiations have been ongoing over. I think the concerns are their mineral they're mining actually are in Guinea, but they have to export them through the port of Buchanan using the rail. And the question has been, well, who should administer the rail? Currently, apparently, the rail is being administered by ArcelorMittal, or ArcelorMittal has exclusive right, whatever it is. But apparently, the government had promised a multi-user agreement that would give access to both HPX and ArcelorMittal. But apparently, HPX was supposed to do some work, some research, and the government must seem to have some concerns. So now it looks like the government is having second thought on who to administer this multi-user rail. Mohammed, all of us here pay attention to politics, but you seem to be very keen on these. Kind of give us an update on what this is all about, and what this letter is about, and the president responds if you can.
Thank you. That said, I will have to disappoint you on this question. I don't have I don't have enough information, and I don't want to go off of, not having enough information to address issues. Every time I address an issue, I want to do justice to the topic. So I would take a pass on this. But in general, before I do so, we we are very much addicted to, it's a cultural thing now. We are very much addicted to big business and foreign companies. Liberia historically has been dominated by foreign interests, and these foreign interests pay peanuts to our leaders, and our leaders are so subservient to these foreign big companies, to the extent that we don't do anything on our own. So we're going to get somewhere in these discussions. Up in your intro, I believe you did, talk about this Chinese investor who's roaming all over Liberia. And I'm shaking my head like, why is this not a Liberian, an indigenous? Why is this opportunity not given to a Liberian, perhaps? I mean, so it's just what I can offer at this time to that topic. So just in general, it's something that's very distasteful to me.
Well, fair enough. Much respect, Lisa. I think you brought in a little bit, even though you're claiming not to have a lot, but I think you brought quite a bit. Brother Purnell, George, are you aware of this letter, the exchange between HPS and the press and the government of Liberia?
Yeah, I'm aware of the letter. From what
Okay.
I understand, the CEO of the company, I'm sorry, wrote a letter directed at the president of Liberia and the government of Liberia, basically showing frustration over the fact that they haven't really come out with a solid answer on whether or not APX will be able to use the Port of Buchanan and the railway. And I think this frustration is understandable. And I seen that Mr. Kamara actually responded to the letter before the president made his actual statement, and he was saying that the letter was disrespectful in tone. But I think there's a sad reality with our country where everyone feels like they have the freedom to address the president directly. And this is because a lot of our systems that are supposed to be in play aren't necessarily working on behalf of the citizens of Liberia. So in the case of this railway situation, what we see here is ArcelorMittal saying that they have a right to exclusive rights or usage to the railway system. And they're also saying that they invested, I believe, maybe around $800 million into the system. And there's this opportunity here coming from Guinea now with this American entity saying that they need to use the system, which you explained already. I think I believe that the system should be available for multi-purpose usage, not just with these multinational entities, but also with our agricultural sector as well. So when we have one entity saying that they have exclusive rights to it, and then we have people defending it, saying, "Okay, yeah, I know there was another letter that came out from NIC saying that they plan to extend it for 25 more years," I think is wrong, and it goes against Article 7 in the Constitution of the in the Liberian Constitution. I'm sorry. Um, what we're dealing with right now is I feel like it's corruption, right? I feel like the bias has to be based off of the fact that ArcelorMittal has been paying people behind closed doors. One, then we have an MDA that is on the internet. You can search it up. I'll share the website later on. But in that MDA and in the amendment in 2013, multi-usage rights was never discussed here. So the Liberian government in 2005 actually did give ArcelorMittal exclusive rights to this railway system, and it contradicts the idea of you having a sovereign nation when you allow a multinational company to come inside and just use your railway station how they please. So that means you're not even looking towards the future to make decisions to say, yeah, I can utilize this to help the common man, which you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be working on behalf of the Liberian citizens. So I think it's a sad thing, and the contract is out there. You can go look at it, and contrary to belief, an MDA can be breached. So they can say, okay, we don't want y'all to have this exclusive right until 2030. They can go ahead and breach it if they feel like it, but I don't think we'll see that.
Thank you very much, Josh. Gabriel, you know, you are a business guy, investor guy, banker, and all this, so you know contracts and all this. There is the Interministerial Commission on concession. Then there is the National Investment Commission, and then there's the Bureau of National Bureau of Concession. All of these agencies. What does why is this letter addressed to the president? How is the president in the middle of this? Because George alluded to something here. I'm hoping you can throw a little bit more light on it. Why does everything go to the president?
Man, Mr. Nanwe, thank you. That is a great question, and I think something we have debated here extensively. It goes back to this whole the way we structured our presidency. Like you rightly pointed out, we have all these three agencies that he could have relegated, authority to those, either one of them, the National Bureau of Concessions, to be able to handle every concession. I think if the contracts or concession get to the point where a decision has to be made, then you can raise it up to the president, right? Then you can bring in the legislature and say, okay, this is where we are. Let's make a final decision. But the fact that something is at its infancy through negotiation process, you're bringing in the president. I think it's just the way we have structured our country. And we had Mr. Kamara here yesterday, right? He talks about what they're trying to do with the National Bureau of Concession, and he highlighted all of these agencies within the government. I think there's too many agencies overseeing concession, right? And this is something we've said here extensively. We don't need the National Investment Commission overseeing concession, while we have the National Bureau of Concession also facilitating that, which is a technical branch. I think if you want to relegate, you want to streamline this process, you pick one entity, pick one agency to facilitate all of this, right? For me, I think I don't have much knowledge on the letter itself, but I think the whole process itself, it goes back to the way we've structured our presidency and how things are ran in our country. We need to decentralize how we look at concession or the way we run our government. And I think if we do that, it will make things a lot easier. But I'm not very familiar with the letter, so I will leave it on that. No, thank you.
Thank you, Gib. Alex, welcome back. And it's good to have you on. Thanks for helping us at least bring a female perspective here to things here. For a while here has been just all of us boys running up and down the place. So how do you understand what is happening here between HPX, the government of Liberia on the one hand, and then of course the government of Liberia and Asala Metal, and all this talk about railroad multi-user, rail administrator, and in the midst of this, Gabriel, I think we forgot there is also the National Railroad Authority. I think that was recently constituted by this government.
Yeah,
So yeah, we have all.
if I may just take 30 seconds. And it's I think George pointed that out correctly, and kudos to him yesterday for really pointing out the number of concessions we have on the books, which ones are active, which ones are being monitored. You cannot, and I think what we've been doing is just signing these concessions, whether the entities with whom we've signed these concessions carry out their obligations, nobody's monitoring them. Hey, I am the representative in this county. I facilitate this. You can put something in my pocket. I do it, give you whatever concession you need. Once that is signed, pens, we put pen to paper, everybody walks away. This, I will be very quick here. Let me take 1 minute. Just in February, I was in Liberia. As I said, I was just like a fly on the wall on one concession where they were actually carrying out exploration. I don't know if you guys are more familiar with Liberia than I am. If you go, I think, Cotton Tree. Cotton Tree is on the other side of the airport on Grand Bassa Highway.
Yeah, this is Buchanan
There,
way actually.
right. There is Kavala Resources. Kavala Resources came in during 2009 and they left during Ebola. They were sold to it was BHP Billiton first, and then it got sold to Kavala Resources. Kavala Resources is exiting, and they're exploring for another entity to take over. I say this to say this, that the company that is doing the exploration in that right now, the agreement was initially for MDA, right? For mineral, for iron ore. But they've discovered gold in that area. There was not a single government representative in that area on that camp where the exploration is being done. These Chinese guys get up every morning to go exploration. The people in the villages follow them, right? We cannot just sign these things and just forget them. These are natural resources. These are things that's supposed to be uplifting the country, But this is how we've done things. And you think we have people with experiences who will come in and facilitate this thing and get the most out of these concessions. But this is not what is happening, So we've had this argument back and forth. So maybe most of you guys can share light on this. But I think I've exhausted my thought process on what should be done on this.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. Thank you very much. And Alex, you were coming in. Please chime in. What is your understanding of what is happening here, and what are we missing here? I mean, we have all these agencies falling over each other, and yet everything goes through the executive master. The president must put his stamp on this. The legislature is not even anywhere yet. Who I think they're supposed to ratify these agreements. We're not even hearing anything from them. What is your understanding of what's going on here?
Yeah, so basically what is going on is it's so simple, okay? The dominating nature of the executive branch is what causing most of the problems that we are having. You have all the agencies like the National Bureau of Concession. It's not doing its work because there's another agency that is doing almost the same thing. And so when you have multiple people taking care of something, it's never going to get done well. And at the end of the day, there's nobody to really hold accountable. So the president is supposed to be the last person. But again, the same issue we have. The executive branch is so powerful in Liberia. And at the end of that, what you get, disrespect. Because this letter we're talking about should not even go to the president. The president should not even be in the picture at this time. So that letter should have been going to maybe the National Bureau of Concession or somebody, and the president should not be any. And it happened before. In, I think, 1997, there was this company that came from South Africa on the same mineral issue. And the man made a statement. He said, from the bottom to top, everybody's Liberia is corrupt. So our president was implicated. So, if we want respect, the president should be the last person to get to these people that come in the country, because you don't know who they are. And when you are the first to meet them and start talking, what if they become criminals? Like maybe later on we got to know that they are criminals. You are already implicated because you started doing business with them. And so this problem started before long time, and it is not still being ratified and continue to happen. So the letter that was sent to the president, yes, it was disrespectful. But again, we don't know to what extent that the president had been dealing with these people. We don't know. Behind closed doors, they might have gone far, and maybe they got too many discussions that they had with him. So based on that, they come into this, conclusion. They are agitated, accusing you of things. So we don't know details. So for now, we are not going to say whether they are wrong or right until we really understand how it is going. Because if you get somebody exclusive right on the railroad and then other people come in and you try to make changes, it's going to backfire. So this is where we are. So, we're going to wait and see how it plays out. I don't know when the legislature is going to chime in. We don't know, because right now it's dealing with, the president. So I don't know from the president before we come to what the legislatures, or before we come to the National Bureau of Concession. I don't know how we are proceeding. So right now, I don't really know how things are going.
Can I make another point?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you guys seen that last week, the U.S. Embassy was actually praising the government for being open to multi-usage on the rail. So I want to believe that's also what led to this frustration within the letter, because if you have your country's embassy now praising Liberia and then you're getting mixed signals later on in the week, it will cause you to be frustrated because there's a lot at stake. And as far as these different agencies, I know yesterday in the group chat, we all received the NBC report, and the main thing that stood out there was that they were underfunded. I believe they had $1 million budget, and 900 something thousand of that budget was going towards salary. So if you're focusing more than 90% on your budget on salary, what money do you have to play with to actually do your job and oversee these types of situations? And I guess we'll get further into that when we get to the fourth question of the night. But that's
absolutely. So, and yeah, thank you all very much. And Alex, especially the points you're making. Look, it is amazing how much unfettered access these foreign nationals have to our government officials. I tell you my personal experience.
Yeah.
And there are several instances where I cannot see the big person and I have to be handheld and taken in by a foreign national to see my big man, whether it's a minister or somebody. It has happened to me more than once, And so these people that come in, these people should not be talking to the president. How is it that this letter is even addressed to the president and the economic advisor is expressing indignation? I mean, I'm upset by the tune of the letter. Obviously, I respect my president. I think a lady of this stature at this level should not even be communicated with my president. But at least you make a point. So, we have no idea how much we have exposed ourselves to these people. And, that's why they feel the way they feel to talk to us, and address us, and especially the president of the Republic in the way they have, Besides the economic advisor expressing this, I haven't heard anything else. Mohammed, have you heard anything else about this?
So I was going to say, you have an economy that's largely dependent on, if you group of investors coming in, who really, they're engaged in exporting raw materials, materials that really, to me, should stay in your country, develop the expertise among your your citizenry, and this is what we've continued to talk about. But I mean, year after year, uh, decades and decades, have passed. It never happened. It's not about to happen. Why is it that all these extractions? Look, that we all, when we were growing up, we heard the story of Bummy Hills, right, which was called Bummy Holes, right? So you have these companies come in, extract these natural resources and take them away. And what do we get in return? What you get in return is a few group of corrupt politicians benefit. The government itself even benefits at time they'll go in and borrow from these people and pay themselves, right? So that's what you have. I mean, what have what has been gained from this? You look at all the experiences of the big companies, put all the big companies together. You can talk about employment. The Firestone is, providing employment, for a lot of Liberians, granted, but the benefit, the dividend overall to the Liberian state is minuscule compared to what these guys are extracting from Liberia. What they're extracting from the Liberian manpower. So it's really minuscule. And what is the time that perhaps the Minister of Labor is going to sit down and develop and strategize something for Liberia? When is the Minister of Commerce? When is the government overall going to do anything about these things? It's not going to happen. It's never happened for decades. It's not about to happen because there is no ingenuity. There's no creativity at the top echelon of government. These people, it's been the same thing over and over. So the Boakai administration is not about to change that.
If I may come in quickly, you see, the way we negotiate these type of deals sets the precedent for every other deals that follow, right? If we are just bending over backwards and we allow investors to come in and dictate to us, the next group of people that come in, every other investors that come in that country, they've already given a playbook. They've already seen the playbook of what to do. Meaning these people are not, they don't negotiate for themselves. You can come in and dictate to them. You leverage the US embassy and put a little bit of pressure on them, and they cave into that. As I said, we have to go into these tables knowing that we have the deck of cards in our favor. Meaning we have the resources. You come in, I understand there is the capital you need to mine these concessions. We don't have it. But guess what? We have the resources. So you have the deck of cards in your hand. You don't just allow somebody to just put money in front of you, in front of a table, and you cave in. But I think this is what we're seeing. And they're leveraging the US embassy to put pressure on them, and then they cave in. But I think if we allow these kind of deals to go forward, every other person, investor who comes in that country, they have seen that playbook. This is exactly what they're going to do. You put a little bit of pressure on them, they're going to cave in and give you what you want. Yeah.
Gabriel, can I ask you a question, a direct question, since you're the economist here? So what would it then take for us to be able to extract our own resources so that our resources stay in country, so that it develops our country? Look at rubber. The soccer, the footballs, as we say, that we purchase in Liberia, it's not made in Liberia. The tires that we purchase for our vehicles, it's not made in Liberia.
Yeah.
But Firestone is sitting there in Liberia.
Yeah. So quickly,
the desks, for schools that have desks nowadays, right? When we used to go to school, we have some desks to sit on. I don't know if those desks are still there now. For those who have desks, the desks that are there, right? Those desks Most of those deaths are not made in Liberia, but the wood, the lumber is from Liberia. So somehow, time after time, no ingenuity, no creativity. We do the same things over and over. You give mining permits, you give logging permits to foreign investors to come in and devastate your rainforests. You know what's going to happen 30, 40, 50 years from now? The environmental degradation. And we're not even talking about
Hold that thought on the environment, Mohammed, because we're coming to it. Hold that thought.
So can I come in a little bit?
Don't lose that thought. Alice, I wanted to welcome Mr. Kamara on set. I'll come back to you, Alice, because we're about to pivot from this topic, but he is a deputy director at the Bureau of Concessions of the Republic of Liberia. So, Alice, I'll let you make your quick point, and then I want him to chime in on this whole HPX and Asala Metal and the government of Liberia, and then we'll move on to the next topic. So, Mohammed, please hold that thought on the environment.
Okay, so basically, I know Brother Mohammed was saying something about why these things cannot be made in Liberia. Now that we don't have people to make these things, something like decks, people in Liberia can make those things. Recently, I saw one video where a young guy is making, the gates for the fans, beautiful gates. He makes them. They make beds, very beautiful beds. But the reason they keep importing these things because they got cut on that. If something is 500,000, they will tell you it's 1 million because at the end of the day, half of the money is going in officials' pockets. That's why they always import things that we ourselves, that Liberians can make, they still go and import them, especially something like wood to make deck for kids.
Yeah.
Well, respectfully, can I just say something before Mr. Kamara speaks? I believe it's just laziness, to be honest with you. It doesn't take anything for us to do partnerships with people when they come in here. As Mr. Carter stated, we have the resources, we have the land. So why aren't the people in positions of power actually taking the time to figure out what a proper partnership looks like, where we do get end products that are being manufactured here in the country, and then we doing economic blocks locally where we can push it into neighboring countries, because frankly, we don't have the population here. And to back up of what Mrs. Moba said, to be honest with you, a lot of the quality things that people aren't making quality things here. Let me say that. So maybe that's why people find value in things that are being imported. Like, I'm living here in Liberia. I'm sitting on a Liberian-made chair, and my computer is on a Liberian-made table right now. But to be honest with you, I don't know what type of glue the guy made. Everything is splitting up right now. So my next step is to go to Orca or go to one of these high-end stores and bring a better quality table in. So if people are actually taking their time and taking pride in the materials that they made locally, yeah, it wouldn't be a need to import things, because we, the Liberians too, will find value in it. But when it comes to minerals and resources, we need to be talking about partnerships. I mean, we can sit here and focus on the fact that these guys did a bad MDA in 2005, and the amendments didn't necessarily work on behalf of the Liberian people. But when are we going to start talking about partnerships and getting qualified people at these tables to say, right, okay, like, let's do a 60-40 split. Let's do, what does this look like? You understand what I'm saying?
I think that's what Gabriel was alluding to.
It's not about you hiring people in a county. That doesn't roll over to the entire economy. You need something that's actually impactful. So you have to have manufacturing. You have to have transformation of raw material into an end product, and talk about trade blocks within your region where you specifically making sure these partners are making things that will be useful to your neighbor, where you can benefit from your neighbor's commerce now and is rolling back into your country. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. I think that's what Gabriel was alluding to, and when he talked about the meeting at Cotton Tree. But listen, I'm sitting for Dennis. So Dennis likes his parables. I like my weak jokes. So let me throw one on you. So there's a meme of Trump going around. He's talking to Xi Jinping of China, and he tells him, "Well, I have the cards in my hand." And the guy responds, he said, but the cars are made in China. Don't forget that. Anyway, as we're talking about things being made in Liberia, I'll be remiss if I don't give a shout out quickly to my Scorpion brother, Vivian Jones. He runs Mwetana. It's a tech outfit, but this guy just the entity just gave 300 chairs to the University of Liberia. So shout out to Vivian. I know I didn't get permission from the platform here, so whatever it is, Mohammed, I will share the blame for that. So, but Mr. Kamara, welcome back on set. We were discussing this letter that Ivanhoe Atlantic wrote to the president relative to the negotiations over the multi-user rail. You're familiar with those things. We're hoping you'll take a minute or so and just kind of from your insider perspective, kind of give us an kind of rundown of what is happening here. Mr. Kamara, the economic advisor, is not happy with the letter, but Alice and others indicated, how did these people even address this letter to the president in the first place? Should the president be in the middle of all this? So, welcome, I said.
Well, thank you again. I'm very happy to share the platform with some of our new colleagues. I've been following Mr. Sherry for a while. My sister, Sis Alice, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
My Mr. Nangre, Mr. Carter as well, and I see Mr. Brisbane. Is that Brisbane?
Yeah, Brunel.
Brunel. Well, thank you. This could be the third time, and I enjoy being on Focus Liberia, one of the widely listening audience in Liberia as well. It's not so much of how many viewers we have; it's about the nitty-gritty, the topic that we discuss that impact our government as well and the people. So thank you for having me. Sorry for being late. I had to take care of one or two things. So I hope you
My
guys
man,
discuss.
you're in America now. You're not on Liberia time. So when we say come, be on time.
Anytime you can, you gotta readjust. Yeah. So with regard to the discussion on the discussion, and I heard Mr. Shari talking about local content liberalization. So I know you want me to discuss that whole issues about the APN, the Aslomental multiple user rate and HPS something. I don't know whether you just want me to answer the question or I should just start.
No, if you can just summarize for the key flash points. Obviously, there's disagreement.
Yeah.
I think that seems to be emerging from HPS on the one end and the government of Liberia, and how the government is shifting towards Asalometal and maybe why. That kind of summary.
Oh, okay. So concessions as a whole, it has some long-term agreement, especially when you have not the kind of short-term or medium-term concession, something that's more than 20, 25, 30 years. They are long-term contract in concession. What we see currently ongoing is not something that is strange to governance issues when it comes to especially when it comes to bargaining, because both the Aslomental and the government has been into contract for the past 2-3 administrations. So like I said yesterday, when concessions are signed, especially looking at the given population, the economy, in most time, what I realized, because I worked for concession before, I worked with National Investment Commission for a couple of years, and I used to be with Richard Turbo, I worked with Nalibu David, and I even a company of China Union at the time. But what we realized, what I actually look at is that our legislature, in most cases, when concessions are on the table, when it's incubated, when it's on the table while discussions are going on, they're like, we don't really project the future. We look at the current, not looking at the future. So, for example, when we were talking about 1929 concession of Firestone, how many persons were projecting the population in the millennium? At the time, Lebanon was less than 2 million population. How many persons were projecting that the place the concession is Magibi? How many persons thought about having University of Magibi? How many persons talk about expanding science lab roles connectivities in terms of manufacturing? How many persons thought about that in the legislature that maybe after 30, 40 years, Liberian population will grow. So this rubber, we could think about ratifying concession to produce synthetic product. We could think about amending concession to look at social corporate variables. How many persons will be employed when there's manufacturing of synthetic product using the same rubber? If I can establish company, how many persons are talking about access to capital in terms of small medium entrepreneurship to grow the local content? How many persons thought about that? So the legislature was just passing concession, looking at the lump sum, and not looking at the value of the land after 30, 40 years. So because we didn't look at these things, we signed concession for 50 years, 60 years, looking at the lump sum that is given to government that day. It's not looking at the life of the unborn generation in the future. So in most cases, when the concession are signed, it becomes legal instrument, and we are sometimes catching the widow in the willingness to say, okay, was it a mistake or it's not a mistake? But I say it's not a mistake because people sign concession looking at the current variable, not looking at the future variable. But then if you look at the law, then the law is very clear about it. The law says even if you made a mistake, you can come back to it correctly. That's why I say the concession can be ratified, it can be amended, it can go up for review. Maybe those variables that you thought that should have been included was not included. You can still call the concessionaire to the table and you people can bargain and renegotiate. So concession can be out for renegotiation. So, and again, on the issues of ArcelorMittal, when ArcelorMittal concessions, there have been multiple review of ArcelorMittal, especially from the Madam Salif region to the Joshua region. There were multiple review, there were amendment, there were ratification at some point in time where lawmakers said we need to see this is not there, we need to include this. So when these things are done under administration, we think that is not bad. It is something that is, you look at the interests of the people. For example, when the concession was signed with ArcelorMittal, it was ArcelorMittal that was extracting natural resources like iron ore. And one of the challenges they had was the issues of the railroad because they had to export the raw material. So they negotiated that and they had access to the rail. But then it was just issues of restriction or monopoly that they are the only single users of it. So my belief at the time, when that concessions of the single user of the railroad, the lawmakers should have thought about maybe we'll have 2, 3 companies coming other than ArcelorMittal that will import, that will export raw material other than iron ore. They should be thinking about rubber. They should be thinking about gold, diamond. They should also be thinking about the usability of the citizen in terms of rail transportation. So we should also be thinking about that. Transportation is not only the main road. It could be water transport. It could be rail transport. It could be land transport. So how can you sign an agreement and just say you are the only user of it when you have a population of 5 million and by demographic, half of that 60% of that population is outside. So you should also think about the issue of competitive market. So if you just restrict it, it means you've disenfranchised the population, you've limited access to resources and restrict the economy in a way. So now that we have now in this time, we have the use of the Buchanan port. You have to use Sana port, Harper port. You got to use Maserati. So if you have a railroad that need to have access to this port, then how can the legislature think about that? That we have HPX, we have another concession, and this is the only major route to this airport. How do we do that? The law says you can still go back to the agreement and call back this concession here for renegotiation, either to use as a multiple user permit, and whatever profit sharing or maybe share responsibility within that concession could be looked at by the legislature to advise the president. In most cases, the president is not the one that can ratify. The president can suggest to the legislature. So if the president cannot say today we're canceling this agreement, the legislature, the president can advise, maybe make a recommendation to the legislature to look into concession review to say this is good for the Liberian people. This is not good for the Liberian people. So the legislature has a major part to play in these things. So with regard to the communication to the president, I think that is something beyond my reach to discuss that, but in the issues that had to do with ratification, amendment, concession, out for review, calling back concessionaire to the table to renegotiate. That is in the purview of the legislature, and the Constitution gave right to that.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Kamara. Thank you so much. All right, gentlemen and lady, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is the whole academic, credibility problem. I'm not sure if this is a recent problem. It's been with us every now and then, but lately, credentialing questions have come up in the news. A couple of months back, it was this gentleman, Doc Cooper, who I understand is still working in the government at the Ministry of Commerce. But he managed to somehow, attain a degree from University of Liberia. That led to an investigation by the new president. I think 6 people of 8 people have been affected, by just this woman's entry and exit out of the exit. I don't know if you ever enter. So then a couple of weeks ago, there was a Dr. Kamara of the clinic in Gardensville, I think, posting to be a doctor, operating a health center. And how did this man get credentialed? Until, so many people may have died, but lately somebody died. I know my close relative of mine attended that clinic. And he ran when they found out, I think, one after things. But lately, we've had a real big one. Dr. Peter Matthew George or George Matthew, whatever it is. This guy, not only did he practice medicine in Liberia as a doctor for over 10 years. So who knows how many people this guy affected? But he also rose to the presidency of all the doctors, I think, in Liberia. Wow. How does this happen? So I don't know, Gabriel. Let's go around the room, starting with you. What do you think is going on here, my brother?
For me, I don't think I want to go to the root cause. I think I want to go to the credentialing entity we have in Liberia. How do they vet somebody before they give that person a license? Yes, you can go to medical school. You can, go through the entire curriculum, but you have to get licensed to be a doctor. And if you apply for your license, there has to be a vetting process in terms of how you attain your degree, right? So how did we drop that ball, right? That's the first thing I want to talk about. The other thing here is that we have to give credit to the university president, the current president, for doing her investigation and finding out these. I'm talking about the Dog Cooper person who, got a fake degree, and making sure she fired the people who were responsible for that. So we have to give her credit. This is how you clean house. You set examples, right? Now the problem here is that the fact that we have identified this individual as having fake credentials, but he's still working in the government.
Still working in the
At this
government.
point, what is the president doing, right? This is where you're supposed to. I don't care how much political capital this individual has. You need to let him go. If you don't, you are setting the example for others, the kids that are in school right now, people that are getting a degree, to say, you know what, I don't really have to go through this process. I can finesse my way through this process and be able to still get a job. And if I know people in high places, I will still be in power. So the president of the university did her part. It's incumbent upon the president of Liberia right now to do what he needs to do to fire this guy. But I think to say this quickly before I land, we have to go to the entity that gave this guy his license. Yes, this is where the fight needs to start with. What process did you go through to be able to give this guy his medical license? So
thank you, Gabe. Thank you very much, Gabe. Mohammed, how did this? What sprung this case? How did this become a story? And now all of this stuff is coming out. Apparently, this gentleman, Matthew, was running the vice president's clinic up in Nimba as the head of that clinic. This guy is touched too many things and too many high places. What do you know about this? How did this story come to the attention of the press? Do you know?
I don't have any specific info. But what this is. It's a long-standing issue in our society. You know, I've seen a pharmacist who was a high school dropout. Wasn't even. I think he did. You know, he had. You know, he had elementary education, and he was administering um, medication injection to people and to patients, and you know who came to the pharmacy. So this is the kind of thing. I mean, as dangerous as that sound, right? This is even more dangerous because you have people now, at least for that young man that I'm talking about now, wasn't credentialed. So he was doing this illegally. And someone almost died before they stopped him. But in this situation that we're talking about now, these people are credentialed. So the question then is, how did they get these credentials?
Yeah.
Right. So out of this situation, there can be some reforms. You know, in any situation, the government has to look at this now and say, you know, let's institute some reforms, you know, some checks and balances here and there. I will hope that that's what's going to happen. You know, am I optimistic about that? I'm not. You know, but you know, it's my hope that you know they can look at this, you know, go back and review some things, and you know, certainly, you know, an investigation is a starting point
Right.
where you know those responsible must be held accountable. You know, and you talk about the you know the university, you know, our alma mater. You talk about the situation at the University of Liberia. Kudos to the president of the University of Liberia for you know instituting an investigation. This is how you again do these things. So it's not a knee-jerk reaction to you know news reports out there or some allegations. She went to the bottom of this, launch an investigation, and whoever is responsible you know bear the full weight. And I think that's you know this is what she has done. So now the ball is in the court of whoever is responsible to you know for hiring Mr. Cooper,
Yeah.
to make sure also that there are some consequences there. It could start with the minister. I don't know why we're just jumping to the president right away, because there's a minister, right? You know, so let's start with the minister here. um, the minister also is aware of this. He has gotten this information, so he now needs to take the relevant measures, right? I don't. If he takes action now, is the president going to overrule him, or is this another partisan thing? So, to me, I think the minister should act right away. Mr. Cooper, from what I know, he is a senior member, is a senior official at the Ministry of Commerce. I'm not sure if that's a presidential appointment.
I understand it is.
It's a
Many people have
presidential
indicated
appointment.
here that you got a presidential letter.
He's an inspector at the Ministry of Commerce.
Yeah,
Senior.
I'm not sure, but I've heard people
So,
comment on
if it is not a presidential appointment, then that's within the purview of the minister
the minister.
to
Yeah.
do something. If it is, then of course, yes, then it goes up to the president, and the president needs to do something.
Yeah.
But all that said, even if the minister, so you know, if the minister doesn't act, someone in the executive mansion um, should then, you know, let the president know. Right? Is the president aware of this? He should be. Someone in the mansion should say this is not a good look for the administration, and something needs to be done, and done right away. This is not a good look. It's not.
Well, thank you, and I agree with you. I think the president of the university deserves, our commendation. At least she's shown us how an investigation is conducted and concluded, and action taken.
Right.
Unlike what we're seeing lately, where there's so many investigations that are left hanging. We don't know where those investigations have gone. But George, you know, the Liberian Medical and Dental Council, and as we were preparing for the show here, he and I were talking, and he reminded me, and most of these professional bodies, right? You come in, there is a state board, isn't there? You have some kind of gateway, some kind of gate that you will pass through, which usually is a state board. And he was telling me of an incident where a guy came in with just a souvenir program. He showed his name in the souvenir program. Yeah, they said, yeah, you did it. So, is there any culpability here on the part of the Liberal Dental and Medical Council? I mean, yeah, we're talking about university, or maybe the credentialing agencies in general. Because we'll now have to talk about the University of Liberia and medical personnel, all of that.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I wanted to start with saying these two cases are national embarrassments because, for one, you need a standard-based public and private sector. When you're in the U.S. or any other country, you go for a job, they see your resume, they interview you, they select you, but then before you start, the first thing they do is tell you, hey, we're going to need your social security number so that we can do a proper background search on you. We're going to verify everything that you said on your resume. We also, sometimes they even make sure you got proper credit before they bring you on board because they have standards and their employees need to live up to that standard, right? And the reason I'm saying it's a national embarrassment is because we are living in a country with no standards. To be honest with you, it's all who you know. And if you can provide a document that looks correct, nobody's necessarily checking behind you. So these are the issues that come with this type of system. And if we don't put something in place, we won't have I keep saying this, we won't have a country. To be honest with you, we won't have a country in the future. We need to put something in place in both sectors. And there needs to be, I don't know what type of due diligence these boards do, but this is something that you're supposed to catch before the person even comes on board. So because we live in a society where it's who you know, and if this person has political affiliation, no one wants to necessarily embarrass the person or speak out against them because truth here is shunned upon. These are the situations that keep occurring.
Thank you, Joe. So, Alex, I mean, I gotta come back to this. I can understand if you say, this was a slip up, even though there are a couple of them, but even then, after the scandal has been exposed, investigation conducted, people have, been made to pay. This Dokubo guy is still working in the government. And I just, what would you, if you were in decision making, authority that would affect such a person, would this person still be working in the government? I mean,
Absolutely not.
I am really flabbergasted.
Yeah. Such persons should not be working in the government. But I'll tell you what I read today. This guy said he graduated from a university in the UK. All right. And the Liberian Medical and Dental Council asked him to show proof, but then he could not produce any proof.
This is the former Dr. Peter George.
Exactly.
Okay.
So he decided to revoke his license. And then he went on and called BBC and said because he was trying to advocate the road between the doctors and the dental group, that's why almost that they were trying to punish him for speaking up. But the real story is what I read today is the credentials that he has. He stole them from somebody in Sierra Leone who is dead. It's somebody's credentials. It's not from the University of Liberia.
Very crafty. Very crafty.
So this is the problem.
Oh man. Anyway, Alice, thank you very much, Mr. Kamara. You are in the government here. I don't mean to put you on the spot, that. But what do you make of all this? I mean, in the face of all of this, and this guy is still working. I just can't understand this thing, you know. I mean, what do you say? I mean, like I said, I'm not putting you on the spot. I know you got to go back to work and go to Moravia. So, I mean, but what are your thoughts on this thing, man?
You're muted.
Like Mr. Sherry said here, that this is not new to our culture, especially to our public sector environment in Liberia. The the good thing is, the fortunate situation is, the war has grown beyond where we found ourselves 30 years ago. We are in a digital age now. So imagine how many presidents in Liberia had a doctorate degree, but we never had a research skill. We never had technology to go to university. You know how many presidents came with degree from Virginia, from Maryland, from Washington D.C., from the UK, from Birmingham. You know how many presidents in Liberia we celebrated, and we had no research or skills. So there were no there were no fact check. Once the man come from Europe, we say, yeah, doctor, PhD holder. But today, when you say your PhD, the next thing you got to begin about University of Brain, Ghana Red, and section you cook with it. And the mountain colleague who has done so much credential check, he has put people on the spotlight in many cases. So it's our time. We want to say we're fortunate. We just got to take advantage of the jet age and be able to use it in a more appropriate way to benefit us, rather than just denigrating our society and not making it unique for the younger generation. In the case of our credential with the medical staff, I just want to speak on the public sector approach. Um, Before, there was something at the CSA. I know there was something at the CSA. My uncle told me that they used to take civil service exam before you become a public servant. There was exam you used to take on the CSA. As a matter of fact, they used to give you a certificate for passing the CSA test, and before they enroll you into the public sector. There was a public sector program. Um, Most of the team broken down because of the political side of governance, where political parties have entitlement to jobs. So since the war, you've seen the high increase in proliferation of political parties, and political parties are using this means to enter government. So the issues about one political party deciding how credible an individual is to enter government, for the past decades, I've not seen that, because political parties now join institutions, they endorse candidates, and once they win the election, the next thing is we got to divide job, we got to sit on the table. So you see everybody recommending their own victim or whatever personality, and it becomes pressure on the presidency at times to give them the entry into government. That is not something that has happened new. So the CSA, I have said this over time, that you have the what we call the civil service agency that is responsible for hiring qualified, competent, and vetting who be candidate and placing them in the proper positions. That has not happened for some time. But currently, the civil service agency that is headed by Josiah Joker has been doing some significant work. I have been a testament to that. I've witnessed, I have gone to his office, and I've seen the number of reform in many entities that he has brought some people to the table who are directors. Can you imagine a man is a director and he does not have a credential to be a director? You have a sitting director. You imagine doing our women and day for you to be director for an agency. It means you have the merit, you have the understanding of the subject matter. But a man director only because he was a battle cry man, maybe in Nimba, or he was a battle cry man in Sano, or he was a auxiliary group here, and he knocked his chest. You're not gonna struggle about you to get a person elected. So he became a director not by the portfolio or understanding of the subject matter. He became director because maybe he had 25, 30% behind him during the time the political campaign was going on. So the CSA under Josiah Joker now has this that has done so much work in the public service Now, most of them worry. As a matter of fact, even the agency are in, you have more than 25 high school graduates who are directors. I'm like, how can you be a director? Do you know what it means to be a director? Then, so when we talk about credential audit, then it become political. The next thing they say, oh, the man ain't good, the man not qualified, the man ain't supposed to serve in this field. Because once you talk about credential audit, the whole moral can turn upside down. The reason is people because of political proximity or the way people came to leadership to serve. Sometimes they use the political proximity to compromise the system, and the system must be a system that will create proficiency and accountability when you have the professional people who are well trained in this area. So the CSA has always emphasized on human resource management. So human resource, then let me give you another side why these things are happening. You have institutional heads who have no respect for human resource managers or directors. So if you have a lady who is well signed, who did sociology and management, who has a master's degree in human resource management, she's sitting down as a human resource director, you will see the head of agency saying, I'm the head, I'm the boss, I'll determine who to employ. So instead of the human resource director making sure to hire the qualified people, train them, vet them, place them as per their credential, you will see the heads of the entity will say, I'm the head. I'm the head. I decide who to bring. So you see, most of the heads will employ people outside of the chain of command of the human resource director. Then you see the lady there will like, okay, no problem, because I don't want to lose my job. So
Right.
you
Let me
see the
ask you
whole,
this. Let me ask you
yes.
this. And you think the position of inspector that Mr. Doug Cooper is holding, is that a presidential appointment position, or is he appointed by the minister?
Yes, so let me clarify that.
Uh-huh.
You see, the Constitution gave the president right power to appoint a minister, assistant minister, director, assistant director, ambassador, even a kitchen president. The president can create as many positions as a president. He can say
Okay.
today, say Inspector General Sano Kante. The president can appoint that for maybe
Okay.
mineral management. So,
Okay.
but the civil service, most of these positions were part of civil service. So it goes through the chain of civil service. The civil service will vet you. They will be the one to place you in line with your act or the HR manual of your entity. But then, when you look at the Constitution, in many times also is that you ask yourself, is there any law in the Constitution that says when you appoint a man for a minister of lands and mine, he must have a it ain't like Ghana. I see something in Ghana and Nigeria to become governor in Ghana and Nigeria, it sets some requirement. But our constitution does not set any requirement to say for you to be ERBC director, you must have communication degree or degree in communication, or for you to be maybe a director for National Port Authority, you must have administration skills and port management. So because our constitution is vague on most of what.
Oh, is it being harmonized even here in the States? Anyway, I like it. He brings a lot to the table. His
It was
experience, a lot
interesting
of
what you
that.
were saying. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So, but thank you, Mr. Kamara. When you come in, you join us on the next topic. We got to move on. Before we move on, yeah, Wallo
But
is not
Victor, I was going to say real quick, right?
here. Yes, please do.
So even the foreign minister Sarah Bachelet Yanti, during her confirmation, before her confirmation hearing, there were issues discussed regarding her credentials,
You want to go there?
and that was swept under the rug because and it's very, very thin. So now if the president didn't make any move then with the foreign minister, I don't know if he's gonna make a move now. The foreign minister, when she made her presentation, and the senators were so careful to go. Imagine people that were, questioning her, quizzing her on different things. They were very careful in going around that issue. And so you have someone as a foreign minister of Liberia, the Republic of Liberia, with a very, very thin, and I might
But
add,
but
questionable credential. So
let,
that's an issue.
yeah. Well, but during the confirmation, I know you saw the whole place was filled with people protesting, whether in solidarity or what. But instead of making sure that the confirmation went on, accordingly, you have women group, different groups, the whole Capitol building. I was wondering what was the purpose, and some people said they were trying to show solidarity because she's a female. But if the female documents were not correct, why would you be there, to show solidarity? Like you said, at the end of the day, maybe they look at the crowd and everything was swept under the rug. So it's business as usual, like Mr. Bien Kamara is saying.
Sorry, I had I think I was disrupted by a call.
Yes, we kind of figured, but we're winding on.
You want to
just
land? Maybe he can land what he was saying.
Yeah, make your last few comments on that, so we move on to the
Yeah,
next
so
topic.
on the issues of good governance, and that's the reason why the president has ensured an independence of the civil service. The civil service has significantly worked for the past 1 year, and we're seeing the changes and transition. They are, in fact, empowering human resource directors to have hands on deck and be the one to vet every candidate before placement. So right now they have a testing center at the CSA. So if you say you this person, you IT specialist, the civil service has the place to test you. They will verify your credential. If you graduated from abroad, they will make sure to do that. So as a matter of fact, most of the agencies now that used to have that autonomous will to hire their own people, most of them are under the CSA. Now the CSA is the one that is doing the placement. If the heads of agency recommend applicant, is doing the placement. The CSA also is advising the president on how to place people and who be candidate that are coming up with applications for appointment. The CSA has an oversight responsibility on that. Like for me, in a case of mine, I was not just appointed because I supported the president. No, I presented CV. They look at my CV. They saw where I work, what my capability, what I can do before my appointment. As a matter of fact, they hired a committee that was looking at candidates' credentials and knowing where to place you. So maybe if that had happened, maybe out of oversight. But again, I could present a credential meaning everything is well, but due diligence is part of credential fact check. So sometimes maybe people place in government there was no sufficient due diligence done on their credential, and later on, and you see information coming up because you have external parties who are making sure to hold government accountable, like the Focus Lab Bureau. The Focus Lab Bureau could do any research on anybody and come up with information the government can believe that in as much as authentic they can apply that. So the coming of Dr. Mampayan at the University of Labrador set a new space because the entire university, I don't want to say it was bad, but you have people in the system that were manipulating the system and giving people degree who was not graduating on the issues of the term they're supposed to stay there. You even saw that during graduation where some people were exposed. They did not sit in class all alone, but during the graduation day, they had guy on them, they had the activities, but their name could not appear in the souvenir. That has happened over time. So her coming to the University of Labrador set a new era, and I see the transformation that is ongoing because the University of Labrador has been so politicized about same also protest activities. So it's giving a new face of academic environment. So in the academic environment, she has to start a reform from the administrative sector, those who are department heads, heads of professional department, and to curtail the too many TAs because you have a university that has so much TA rather than those people who are professionals to be teaching in class. And most of the TA do not have the credential to teach the student. So her beginning is very welcoming, and whatever recommendation that is coming from the university president, the president will adhere to that, and he will take position on her recommendation. For the guy with the medical degree, well, the research started a long time. Many institutions flag it, but the actuality to get to the bottom of the case, where they have to write a university that will reply to say we are not aware of this. This information just came in, and you can see that the Labrador Institute of Medical taking action, civil society group coming taking. This set a new precedent for a new Liberia, where if you're presenting a case, you gotta be actual, factual, you gotta be real about it because it's a jet age. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Spoken like a real government official. Yes, we thank the president of the university. She brought us into the. What about what she exposed? Are you guys gonna still let Dokubo stay in the government? You didn't answer that, but don't answer that. We're gonna move on. You gotta go back so we understand that.
No, I don't want people feel. Look, we are working and paying our quota as a Liberian. Any of us can have that opportunity to serve our country, but not to be deceptive. To say because I'm putting food on the table, so I must I must ban the conversation only in the interest of myself. No, the Universal Librarian make a recommendation, and the president review that recommendation, and he's going to take action. There are several recommendations that came out, and the president has taken action on it. And you saw that he dismissed some people, he suspended some people, and he's ensuring to do the rightful thing. But he just want to make sure that whatever information you gave him is the rightful information, so he cannot come back to regret the action
Thank
when
you
the
very much.
information you gave him is not right.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kamara. Thank you very much. All right, gentlemen and lady, we time to move on to our next topic. As you can see, our producers are urging us in the background there. The question is, this president has been in office for over a year now, and so at least we've all had time to observe him as president, even though he has been in government for so a long time. But what can we say about who he's emulating? You know, every president comes in, trying to follow in the footsteps of some predecessor. Is President Boakai? Do we think he's walking in the footsteps of his boss, Madam Sirleaf, or is he governing like we are? There are comparisons here that people were making. We have brought his fishery. This president brought his egg factory. We are in the role. In fact, you're called the bad road medicine. I think Boakai is also assuming that title. So, what do we think? Is he just doing his thing? Mohammed, you want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, I don't think he's emulating any of these predecessors. I think he's leading his own roadmap. He's developed. He has his own plans. He has his own agenda. As every president should have their agenda. The elections, are for those reasons. And I used to say here on this show, on this platform, that elections have consequences. And whenever we were talking about tenure, and people were criticizing the government move to erase that culture of tenure for government officials. There was a lot of people are critical of the administration, but I was supportive of that because what do you need tenure for, right? I don't want to go back to all of that stuff, right? Up to a point where on roads, on yellow machines and stuff like that, people criticize that. And I said, but what do you want to do? You want to sit there and let these roles, become deplorable over the years? What are we going to do? So up to all of that, I was supportive to the point where we come to this impasse in the legislature. This was a bridge too far for me now. So the president, that's his own path. I don't know if he's looking into the past to see what Ellen Johnson did with taking out successfully taking out a speaker, or George Weah's administration under George Weah, a Supreme Court justice was impeached, and now he is saying, well, this is my time and I can do whatever. I don't know if that's what he's doing. But it's interesting to see that when you look in the past, these things have happened already. So his administration doing that is no different from what happened under Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and what happened under George Weah. That said, I think he has his own agenda. He has developed that. And I'm very critical of the fact that we cannot continue to remain still. Just because X did it, Y did it. So can you give me, can I have a president right now who can come in and revolutionize this rotten system? Can you just give me a year of clean work? And I'm talking about you getting down to work rolling up your sleeves, getting to work. Look, J. Victor, in Burkina Faso, you have a military leader, an unelected president, who is doing so much for his people. He's riding the same car that the same military vehicle when he talk about. He doesn't have designer clothes on. He has the same military uniform. Okay, he's walking around. Not a lot of international travels, so he stays home. And you know what that's doing? He's closer to home. He's doing the things that need to be done. Contrast that with our current president. It's too much travels already. It's too much mess going on already. At the orchestration, I believe, of the president, under the watchful eyes of the president, there is a lot going on. As I told you, he had me up to the point where this impasse occurred, and all of the foreign travels and all of the things that are going on. That's inimical to Liberia's progress, to our developmental progress. When are you going to build these bridges? When are you going to build these roads? When are you going to do anything meaningful? Before you know it, 6 years will be here already. We're down one. We're going to year 2 now. What has been done? Can any one of us point to anything tangible that has been done? I thought that roads, for me, just pick one thing. Just pick a sector, right? For me, pick the roads, do the roads. Don't worry about nothing else. Just do that. Focus on the roads. Build the roads from Monrovia to Kipamas, Greenville, Vonjama, Sanicola, Yikipa. Develop all these roads. And I'm not talking about, just grading the roads, but you make sure that on top of that you're paving these roads so that they're not only pliable for a season that we call a dry season in Liberia, that is pliable at all times. Decades ago, when I was a child, people go through the roads and they're saying, oh, your mom didn't reach the Ganta because, the car's stuck in the mud. It is the cars that, so the same thing we're still doing. The same era we're still living in. Can I have a leader, please, that will get us over that hump? Please.
Thank you, Marvin.
Asking the Creator now. I've turned now to the Creator to give us a leader. Please.
You sound like your finance minister. Give her.
You want us to pray?
I know, right? Listen, so I know Mama is shying away from this thing, but Shirley removed Tyler. She supervised removal of snow.
I didn't shy away from it. You heard me said.
Yeah, you said Boakai is doing his own thing, but there a little bit of each of these predecessors.
But I mentioned those. No two leaders will be. He's doing his own thing. His way is different, but some of the things, like I said, it may be borrowing. Having seen what Shirley did, George did, there were no consequences for those. So he figured, I can do the same. But what I'm saying is, can we move on already? You don't have to copy them. That's bad behavior. George Weah didn't listen to ECOWAS. George Weah did orchestrate the removal of Carbina Janet. Akaras Gray was his errand boy. Now I see Akaras Gray all over the place criticizing what's going on. Akaras Gray has no morals to talk about this. Let us do that. Those of us who've been consistent, those of us who call a spade, let us do that. Not people like Akaras Gray. Okay? Let Yeke Kolba and others do that, because Yeke Kolba has some morals. whether you disagree with him or
We'll
not.
take that with a grain of salt.
I know, right? No, Gabriel, what do you say, man? Is this president doing his own thing, or does he have a little bit of, like Mohammed is agreeing, a little bit of here and there? I mean, we saw what happened
I
to,
I think when this president took over, we would hear, and I was a little bit lenient to him because I said, hey,
Yeah.
give him a little bit of time, give him, we were, there were people criticizing him. I think 3 months in, 4 months in, and I think you're one of those people that said, give him a little bit of time. Um, but after what we've seen, uh, Mr. Nangwe over a year now, I think a year and 5 months or 4 months in, and
right?
there is the comparison that we're seeing people compare this president to is to we are, right? Meaning the bar that people are comparing him to is to we are. Now,
Mm.
for someone who has been in government for this long to come in and be compared to a D student when you were, telling people that you are a student, I think that is a failure within itself, right? I cannot elaborate the removal of the speaker. I believe he absolutely orchestrated the yellow machine, the inauguration fund, which he has not taken a decision on up to now. It just went quiet under the rug. We have another individual who fake credential, and he's still quiet about that. So for me, if you look at those things, and I think there are a lot of other things I'm leaving out here. You look at those things, you look at the president who's apparently supposed to be taking decision on this thing. You see a similarity or a parallel with him and we are, and how that is currently playing out. Um, I agree with Sharif, Mr. Sharif. We at this point in our history, we need someone who will just come and not, I won't say not play by the rule, but literally, be a little bit revolutionary in terms of how you
Yes.
set up the country. And we have yet to. I say this thing behind closed door, but I will say it here. We're turning out to be as if we have a country with no men in it, technically. I think it's a time we should give the women a chance to run our country, and let's see what they can do with it, because we've had a lot of men run our country for 180 years for most of the time. We are not regionally where we need to be. We cannot compare ourselves to any regional partners. I mean, any regional countries counterpart in our region. So at this point, I think the president is repeating what everything else he has seen before him, his predecessors do, and he's
Yeah,
taking the same playbook. And for me, I
I
think that is
mean,
it's sad within itself. I think maybe some of you guys might have something better to say, but I think for me, what I've seen so far, it's frustrating. It's
Yeah,
very
it
frustrating.
is.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
Josh, thank you very much, Gabriel. George, as this president cut a clean path, I mean, like Gabriel and Mohammed is saying, we saw we are bring the airborne mob and Eton. The president brought yellow machines. Is there. The president is removing cover. We have removed Janet. Shirley removed Tyler and Snow. So what is he really doing his own thing here, or is just taking bits and pieces from here and there? I mean, like you were saying, that seems to be frustration. We expected, but go ahead, Josh. Have your say.
Honestly, I've moved to Liberia midway through Wiya's term, so I don't feel like I'm qualified to speak on whether or not he's following in the footsteps of Wiya or Ellen, because during Ellen time, I wasn't paying attention to Liberia politics at all. I would like to say, though, I like to compare policy to promises, right? So, as a citizen of Liberia, I don't know where Liberia stands on the global stage, and that's a problem. Just to further what Mr. Carter was saying, and as a farmer, I don't see any transformation in the agricultural sector.
Mm.
Those are things that I pay attention to, and these are things that were promised during the campaign trail, and this is the reason why most people, especially in the U.S., were in support of him coming to power. But on ground, these are things that I don't see, they're non-existent. Now, how that compares to his predecessors, I'm not sure. So.
Thank you, Gabe. I mean, Josh, for keeping it honest, young and all, we get it. Alice, Alice, what do you say here? Are we seeing any?
1979 protesters.
All right, you had to go there.
Well,
I'm laughing here while he's busy here. I don't know. He wants me to disclose my politics. He wants Gabriel to disclose his politics. He's still happy on this $5 billion, sandcastle, HPS, which we all know is for all we know is practically dead. And this guy is still holding on to this thing. You need to probably go see his. I don't want to say, but you need to go see a doctor, buddy. Let him check you out. Anyway,
he needs to go to Liberia and visit, and then he come back.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, please.
Alice, is there anything to compare here, or is this president really doing his own thing, moving on?
Well, I think we have a lot of things to compare. First of all, let's start from Ellen. She was doing the rules, and he came in. Came in, was doing the rules, and the current president came in and started doing the rules. But the issues that have to do with abandoned vehicles along the road that have been killing people from time to time, the issue is still going on. So you have the disabled trucks on the highway, even on Rawafi Highway. There are no lights, and people are fixing tires using telephone lights. Those things are still going on. Because when I went to Liberia, I saw that, and it was very dangerous. I was so scared. And during my recent visit, where the president is still in power, it's not we are now, but along the highway from Monrovia to Kepamas, the abandoned vehicles were on the road. And so you see why every time people get killed and they say there's accident, because you don't find a lot of vehicles plying the route. So when I hear that there were accidents, people got killed, I'm wondering, where are the cars? Because sometimes you drive like 50 kilometers, you not find one car from Kepamas coming up. But yet people get killed all the time. It's because the vehicles along the way, and they are not even off the road. Sometimes the tire is on the road, and when you see another car coming and you want to focus on your lane, you might end up, hitting abandoned vehicles. So these things are still going on. And I'm wondering whether the government is not aware of that, because there should be somebody responsible. It's not normal to have these vehicles that are disabled to be on the road. It's a hazard. But these things are still going on. They were going on during previous regime. They are still going on. And of course, we know that people got removed from offices illegally. And, from, Tyler, Snow, and then you got Cabinet Janet. And I knew this government was going to do the same thing. Because one is so wrong and nobody was speaking up, and people who knew the whole thing was wrong and they just kept quiet because it wasn't them. Now they are speaking up today. So better to avoid it when you know it is wrong, whether it's your party or it's your president, you have to speak up. Because it will be a vicious cycle. The next person, let's assume that CDC win next election, we're going to have the same issue. And we shouldn't be repeating that. So also, the illicit mining was going on, and it's still going on. So who is the authority? Who is responsible to stop these things? Because the natural resource is supposed to be for what? The Liberian people. And if you have individuals bringing people in the country, I don't know whether it's the government that bringing the people or individuals in the government, maybe the official will tell us. So these are things that are going on that were going on before, and we thought everything would have been curtailed by this time. But unfortunately, we're still having the same issues. So we are mute on most of these things. You were not speaking up. And now this president is not speaking up either. So I think it's like copycat.
Thank you, Alice. You talked about this vehicle parked on the road, and it just reminds me. I came from Liberia on Sunday. So last week I was in Saniquili. My wife is from there, And coming back late at night, I think we got in time around 1 or 2 in the morning. But you see these big trucks on the roadside, and these people put their lapas down under the trucks and they lie down there.
Mhm.
And I'm saying to myself, and then when we were young, they used to put a leaf down, maybe like a mile away, to
Yes,
kind of
yes,
warn you. Yeah, maybe
yes.
they'll put the little leaf down, maybe like a couple of feet away. You almost running up on these people, but the people are sleeping. They're so comfortable, they're sleeping under these trucks. And I'm
Yeah,
saying to myself,
it's
why?
dangerous.
Yes.
But anyway, thank you for your input, Mr. Kamara. Um, you know, what do you think here? I mean, you're in a government. You go to cabinet meeting. You're a deputy director, so you're a big man. Oh, you go into audit retreat. You don't go to retreat. You're just you're the sweet. So no jolly jolly. Tell us what is it that this government is doing so differently that the two immediate past governments have not done. I mean, they're doing the same private jet thing that Morley and all these other people were standing on top of the hill and criticizing. They're doing it. This president taking private jets all over the place. You know, they're doing this retreat thing. They bury their little nyama nyama in the retreat thing. They go, they sit down there, they get a little yellow envelope. They're doing the same thing. So, what is it that you guys are doing differently? Maybe you can help us here.
Well, thank you, and I like the discussion, especially when people have their opinion on issues, and the best way to address is to use this platform so that not many of us with whom we have the privilege to listen to Focus Liberia, but I have urged most of my colleagues in government to listen to opinion, not only in the community we live, but this public platform, especially the voice of the diaspora, is the strength of political activities in Liberia. We contribute huge remittances to Liberia, especially building the economy. So when we do not listen to the diaspora voice, it becomes an issue how to gain the kind of relevant in terms of what we promise the people versus what we deliver. Like my colleagues said, in most times I always say government over promise and under deliver. But with the arrest agenda, we under promise and I see some deliverables that are coming forth. Um, I have seen some of the challenges in our own government. One is information dissemination. So if we've done all of the good thing and we don't air it and come on radio or maybe some of these platforms, like when I appeared yesterday, I told you about the achievement of the Bureau of Concession. Some of our people were surprised that they did not even realize that such a bureau even exists in government. So maybe our inability or maybe not having the time to engage major platform to tell the Liberian people outside and in what the president has done could also just make everybody have the mindset that President Boakai is not doing anything. But I am there and I can show you that the president has made some significant mark. Maybe the information or having access to the information is what are challenging with regard to the horse issue. The president came on the pillow called the arrest agenda, agriculture, rule of law, rules, education, sanitation, technology. So the arrest agenda will begin with agriculture. He has a very good plan for agriculture. So as a matter of fact, the agriculture ministry now has put into measure mechanism to empower local farmers. And you can see the president move towards the establishment of agriculture development bank to empower local farmers, boosting the cooperative, farmer cooperative. But how can you have farmer cooperative working effectively and efficiently when you do not have roads? So the president has prioritized roads, and that's the reason why his missions is geared towards opening roads not only in urban area, but farm access to market roads, access to roads in Buchanan, access to roads in Lower County. And this is the first time that you see roads has been prioritized from Monrovia to Southeast. You can drive today and reach Southeast. The day you leave Monrovia, you can reach the same day. You can
Yes.
leave you can leave Monserrado today. I left Monserrado, Monrovia, and I reached Lofa County the same time, 6 o'clock. People used to take 3, 4, 5 days, sometimes a week before they reach Vonderman City, near for your district. So the issues of road has become a priority of the president because road boosts agriculture. You can put all money in agriculture, When the farmer do not have access to the market, especially in the exchange of commodity, it means there's no need that you fund agriculture. The other side, the rule of law, and I know that has been something that people have been concerned about. The president is not imitating anyone. To say he imitating President Weah or Madam Salih, what I will allude to is most of the projects that you saw on the former government under President Weah, those are projects that came from Helen. And you know that government, those are projects that came from Helen. Let's say, for example, the RI road, the road to the main airport. Those are projects that are from Anaseli, including the airport. But the fact that the government did not forcibly end that project under the administration, I thought that was something that is a madness, because you can take 6 years, 6 years. The project, you inherited the project from an administration that was very international, reputable. After waiving all of the debt under the HIPAA, the heavily indebted poor country. So Madam Salif initiated so much project, including the interministerial complex. So I expected the previous government to have ended the RI era, completed, and just turned it over before leaving. So now that the project started Hellington, and President Boakai now was the vice president doing Hellington, so he has to end that project immediately under this regime. If we come 2029 and you don't see RIA road project end, then you will see President Boakai fail. But because he initiated that road, the Banga Menikoma Highway, it was not President Weah project. That was a project that came from Madam Salif Town, and President Boakai, at the time vice president, played major role in the signing of that contract to as far as to Kolahun district, what we call the Menikoma Highway. So if that rule also, if it should not end under President Boakai administration, then I would say President Boakai did not do justice to the fulfillment of his concession on roads. But that rule also now is ongoing. The RIA role is ongoing, and I'm very optimistic that he's going to end very soon. The issue of rule of law, the president has said, talk about rule of law, and that has happened, that has jump-started, because Liberia has the kind of political system, and the system has been spoiled over the period of time. And I do not want to compare a democratically elected president with a military leadership. I don't support military leadership in any part of the world, because we braced military leadership before, and we saw the outcome of the military leadership. It starts very good, but the end is not always good for the citizens. So I don't want to criticize Burkina Faso, but we are a democratic nation, and we saw what we inherited after the war, and up to now, we still regret the loss of over 250,000 lives. So I don't want to compare the elections that brought President Weah, Madam Salif, and President Boakai to power to any military leadership. So a democratic leadership is not as a military leadership. A democratic leadership is governed by the Constitution, the rule of law, the organic structure that has to do with the legislature. The executive has to play the role, the judiciary has to play the role, the legislature has to play her role. With the case of the legislature now, let's say, for example, our Constitution says neither government shall interfere with the others in terms of the fiduciary role. So the judiciary has a part to play, the legislature has a part to play. But when the Constitution says you can play part in this, equally so, the Supreme Court is the final arbiter of the law. The executive is an enforcement of the law. So you heard the president, when everybody, the entire opposition black, I don't want to say opposition black too much because politics has divided our country. People anticipated or expected the president to get involved with the Supreme Court ruling. And this is what the president said. The president said, I respect the Supreme Court ruling, but I will deal with the constitutional quorum. And the law says that you have to have the legitimate number to have a quorum. So once you have a quorum, we'll deal with you. And since the president said that, you saw what is happening in the legislature now. The either black is fighting to get a quorum, or neither of the two parties sending the petition for resignation. And the court also, even the black that said they are the legitimate quorum, they have to file a petition for re-argument, because once the court pass a law down, it takes effect after 72 hours. So many people did not know that. Oh, the Supreme Court said today they passed a law down today. It doesn't take effect today. It takes 72 hours because it has to give the aggrieved party or the other party a time either to maybe disagree or file a re-argument. So immediately the Supreme Court came down with a ruling. The other black filed a petition for re-argument, which was registered and accepted by the court. So it means that the two blacks still fighting for legitimacy. And the president said that I would deal with a legitimate body that has a quorum. So whoever that has a quorum, the president can deal with that. So he did not disrespect the Supreme Court, neither did he deal with a black after the Supreme Court ruling. On the other hand, my sister talked about, which is good, the issues that have to do with the president deliverables. In the past, the president is not imitating President Weah, because under President Weah, the average percentage of people who are having affordable current is not even 25%. Not 25%. Looking at 5 million population, you're talking about less than 25% have access to electricity. Now that the president took leadership, there's significant transformation in the electricity sector with the coming of the new managing director, Mr. Mohamed Sherry. LEC now is affordable. It's not affordable or convenient, because affordability has to do with the capacity. So there are negotiations moving towards solar energy. There are negotiations of decentralized electricity, not only in Maserado, but the entire rural sector. But today, Liberians are happy with the new managing director because he has an understanding in electricity administration, and that's why we talk about capacity and when do we feel capacity when it's needed. So electricity today is stable. We pray God that government concentrate on stability of electricity, because affordable electricity and convenient electricity is a boost to industrialization. How do you expect company to come in? How do foreign direct investment boost when you do not have affordable electricity? Nobody's going to be relying on just solar energy. Every country must have three things, and these three things boost investment. One, you must have a good healthcare system. You must have roads. You must have electricity and water supply. Now, these four things are cardinal instruments to industrial revolution, especially investment climate. So if we have good electricity and we prioritize agriculture and roads, the next thing is water supply. It means we're moving gradually from the old administrative era of non-accountability to an era of efficiency. So I think the president is doing best in his administration. The finance ministry, since we got a finance minister, he has been engaged in the international community, the IMF, the World Bank, to fill the gap of what we observe of the USAID funding, because you have a national budget that was significantly sponsored by you had the healthcare, the agriculture sector. Some of this sector was sponsored by USAID. And USAID, you know what we face in the global issues, especially with the US side of it. So the finance minister has engaged the IMF, engaged the World Bank, in a way to subsidize and fill some of the gap. Besides that, the finance minister under our administration has worked with the fiscal and monetary arm of government to ensure that the street bureaucrats, the teachers, the doctors, the police, there have been significant slight increase in their pay. That has not happened. To think about civil servant, those people who are in the hospital, those women who are teaching, the police, the military people, there's slight increase in their pay. The civil servant reform, there is no government that will achieve in terms of efficiency and productivity when public sector is being more political rather than being efficient in productivity. Our public sector before, for the past decade, has been political institution. All of the civil servants are more political, more than a civil servant. So there's significant reform ongoing with the civil service. And as a matter of fact, the civil service has been able to save close to $2 million for the past 1 year, 2 million, because there were payroll parties. There were people who were on payroll who are dying. There were people who were replaced by other people and they are not working. There were people in the United States here who were receiving money and they were using their bank card to withdraw money from institutions and they were not working. I have seen some of the dead people, their names on the payroll. I have seen that. So the government is going through a holistic reform: healthcare, agriculture, electricity, the rule of law, including how we can tackle crime rate. What is crime rate? Like the issue of a crime rate. Crime rate in Liberia, for my own analysis, most of the crime rate in Liberia are petty crime. The vulnerability, the inability to provide capacity for our people are led to crime rate. Because when the UN led with 3 recommendations. When the UN was leaving Liberia, they left 3 recommendations. One, the UN did something what we call the DDRR, the
Let's round up,
demobilization,
Mr.
the
Camara, so we
disarmament,
can touch on the last question real quickly.
the rehabilitation. So we did disarmament, we did demobilization, but the two components of the RR was not done fully, which is the rehabilitation, the reintegration. So people were not rehabilitated and reintegrated in the society. So the two components of the RR left out. That has led to most of our brothers called Zoko to the, because when you don't rehabilitate them, you cannot reintegrate them. So these people can no longer come back to their home, to the society that they belong to. So they find themselves somewhere where
Absolutely.
they can survive. So
Well, I'm glad they have you in
I
the
would like a
government.
minute to push
Yeah, let me have a minute because you did not address the issue that
Yeah,
has to do with abandoned vehicles on the
yeah.
highway.
We will come
yeah, so
back to that again
that's why I
another day,
want
Alex, because I want us
that's
to
why I
touch
want
on
to
the.
address
I
now
want
on
us
the
to touch
issues
on the
of
issue. Beyond just a second. I want us to touch on the issue of the illegal mining. I think we'll reserve that part of the safety thing for another show. I think that means a lot to all of us. Alex, I think you flagged this issue today in the chat room. Do you want to introduce it? We have about 4 minutes left. So let's include that in our closing as we each make an input. Let's keep it very brief, but let's take a stab at this, Alex.
Okay. Basically, the issues that are concerning in Liberia is the illicit mining that's going on. I saw videos of the superintendent in Bond County complaining about illicit mining in that county, and she took upon herself to go and she saw all the vehicles and all the potholes of chemicals that they have in that place. But then in her explanation, she talked about higher ups are involved, and so therefore nothing can be done. There's another issue of a Chinese person that was in Norfolk County in Belly, and this guy was arrested, and you know, for him to really be punished, that did not really happen. And the next thing now, we heard that he's in River G, carrying on some illicit activities on mining. And so, how is the mining in Liberia being taken care of? I mean, what is the process? Do you have like government officials individually mining, or is something like government as an entity spearheading these, different companies to mine in the country?
Thank you, Alice. Gabriel, I mean, this is your area, even though you're not into mining, but you're a business guy. What Alice is saying here, look, that story recently, there was a story of Romeo Quia, one of the representatives, signed up bringing brown bags and trying to get the people at the town hall, to okay some kind of mining thing. Like, these stories are all over the place, Gabriel. But the problem is these are not regulated, and how are these things supposed to be done? Most of the time, you see the pictures of the locals, they level dirty pits to drink from because the water is all poison. What is going on here, my brother? As far as you know.
So I think we may have touched on this, earlier during the show. I think, and which is a good segue to my pushback on some of the things that Mr. Nangwe talked about. So the fact that we see some of the locals, interacting with illegal mining, and the first question that should come to your mind is, who are the representatives in those areas, right? Who are the senators in those counties, right? If you catch someone doing illegal mining, let's say the Chinese or whoever else you see in those counties doing illegal mining, the first thing you should talk to, the first question is, who is a representative here to pick up on these people, right? The next thing is the fact that somebody mentioned that this goes to the top, but nothing will happen, right? That means somebody is aware. I talked about the same incident when I was in Liberia, where those Chinese were mining. The town people basically said that they don't want the Chinese there because the Chinese don't take care of them like BHP Billiton took care of them, right? But they cannot get rid of the Chinese because somebody in the government is aware of those Chinese being in those villages, right? So their hands were tied. So they had nothing to do but to contend with those people because there is a government influence behind it. It goes back to the other point that I wanted to make here. We talk about, excuse me here, I have a call coming in.
I think the Chinese people are calling you, Gary.
I'm not in Liberia, so
Don't talk about us.
let me say this quickly, and I'll end. Right, this is it goes back to fundamentally everything we stand for. Not everything we stand for in our country, but it goes back to the basic economic fundamentals, meaning every citizen in those counties, they don't have jobs, right? So if you have a Chinese person coming there to do illegal mining, what is that person? What do you think that person is going to do, right? The first thing they're going to do, they're going to come with money in their hand to bribe them, regardless of how small that bribing is. But because they don't have jobs in those counties, they would take it and allow those people to get away with those mining. But what they don't understand is that the long term, meaning that these are lots of resources that are being taken from them, right? On the second part of that argument, let's say even if they wanted to raise a concern to their representative or the senator, it goes up the chain. At the end of the day, it goes to the top, nothing happens, right? So I don't know how to resolve this problem. I don't have a solution for it, but what I can tell you is that the reason why most of these things are happening, I think somebody said it, lack of regulation, one. Two, lack of, what do you call it, jobs in those counties for those people to work. Because if you are working fully, you understand you're able to take care of yourself. If somebody come to bribe you, you would think twice before you take that bribe. But if you have no other means to take care of yourself, that is not even a decision you think twice about, right? So it goes back to the representatives in those counties, one, and second of all, the senators in those counties. So if we want to outlaw or maybe come up with some kind of regulation for those illegal mining, we should hold the representatives accountable, the senators in those counties accountable as well. Say, this is what is happening in your county. We need to bring it to your attention. Draft some kind of law, push it in the House or the Senate, and pass the law on illegal mining. That if it doesn't go through the House of Representatives or the legislature, you want to call it that, this is the fine you'll pay if you get caught for that. Right. So I don't have a lot of knowledge on that, but I think that's my thought process on that.
No, I think you're making some great points here, George. Gabriel is talking about the seeming lack of regulation and the information that Alice put in the chat room. You can see that Boy Charles, Jonathan Sobey, this guy was, one of our superstars some years back. Maybe you may not be aware of that, but he's in the middle of all this in River G. How is it that these lawmakers have become the directors of investment? Where is NIC? I know Mr. Kamara will comment on this because I think part of this agency has something to do with that, so he will have the last say on that. But what do you say here, George? Gabriel is lamenting the absence of regulation. Is that the only problem, or is that the major problem?
That's the major problem, and I would like to start my response with Article 7 of our Constitution. The Republic shall, consistent with the principles of individual freedom and social justice enshrined in this Constitution, manage the national economy and the natural resources of Liberia in such a manner as shall ensure the maximum feasible participation of Liberian citizens under conditions of equality as to advance the general welfare of the Liberian people and the economic development of Liberia. That's right there in our Constitution, right? And on this topic of illicit mining, what we have are foreign nationals, Ghanaians. Lately, we've seen this story with the Burkina Bees coming over, Chinese nationals. They are coming into our country simply because they know we lack the regulation that their countries have. And that's why they don't participate in their own home nation. They find themselves in Liberia strictly because we're not regulating anything and they're aware of that. So they're not coming and breaking the system. The system is already broken and they're just taking advantage of it, right? And then in our same Constitution, Article 13, It says that non-Liberians can be expelled from our country with a cause. So with the Chinese people now, I noticed that the government doesn't like to arrest them because we have a relationship with China. But if you're not going to arrest these people, then expel them from the country and keep the machinery that they're using in the bush. We don't have regulation. There should be somebody at every single mining site taking note of what's coming out of that ground, measuring it, and using it to hold a company responsible. Because we're not only getting robbed from the ground, we also getting robbed with the taxes. They paying 25% taxes if the company is registered now, right? So if they're supposed to be paying 25% in taxes, and then we're not regulating how much stuff is coming out of the ground, how do we even know what to charge them for taxes? One. Two, with legal mining, with ArcelorMittal, for instance, when you look at the MDA that we have with them, they protected themselves from changes in our tax code, meaning that they're set at I think the 2005 or 2013 tax regulation in Liberia. It doesn't matter what we do, they're paying a set amount of taxes, and in this MDA, they're actually protecting themselves where they can say they experienced losses and just cheat their own financial statements to the detriment of the Liberian people. These are things that we can change if we educate our citizens and let them know what's going on, if we explain what's in these MDAs and how they're detrimental to us. As far as the illicit mining and the environmental impact, yeah, people are right. When you take it to the higher ups, they do nothing. Right now, the reason why y'all seeing a whole bunch of people talking about illicit mining is because a video that I personally shot last month. The video went viral on Instagram. Next thing, everybody is saying, oh, they're doing illegal mining over here. But I believe it's because most of them are trying to save themselves. Because the Chinese people do know that when I go into this bush, all I have to do is pay the elders. I have to pay the other people that the elders respect and call authority in the area, and I pay off the police people that's going to come in there and check on me. I even pay off immigration. So how can we defeat illicit mining if these people know that all they have to do is pay these people? And on a village, at the village stands, right, on the ground, when you're in the village and you're talking to people, right? This just happened last week to me. I asked somebody, I said, why did y'all allow these people to come here and destroy our area like this? And their response was, oh, the government brought them. I said, who in the government brought them? They said, well, these people are Chinese. The government had to bring them if they came through the airport. So that's the logic that we're dealing with. They don't even understand that we don't have immigration policy towards these types of individuals. And I can bet money, because I don't want to be long-winded. You can Google any one of these people who are legally mining here in Liberia and they're coming from another country. Google them as CEOs and see whether or not you'll even be able to find history on them in their country. So that goes to show we're harboring criminals. We don't even know who's in our country doing the work, and we allow these people to destroy our environment, and everybody sits back quietly. Why? Because they're receiving brown envelopes. So how can you fix this issue? Even when you go there to educate the people, if that education is not coming from the government, they don't want to listen to it. I sat there in the village in my house and told the people, y'all can't bathe in this water because it has mercury in it. 2 days later, I come back, they bathing in the river. If the government comes there and says, y'all don't touch this water, they're going to touch the water, because people in Liberia only respect title and position. That's it. I'm a nobody saying it to them. You understand? But if somebody was with a title now comes to, even if it's a representative, he has a title, oh, y'all stop bathing here, they will stop. You understand? So there's a lack of education, and we don't have people that have genuine love for this country. You can't give somebody $1,500. It's small money that they taking and destroying the area. The company that I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say that name, these people had 2 licenses to operate within 198 acres. They went 2 miles, 2 square miles up the river. And when they was going up the river, they were just paying the people as they were going along, just paying them. They're not thinking about tomorrow. The elders over there aren't thinking about what the young people.
And Josh, to your point, they've gotten smart. They pay our people in local currency. You know, they give $100,000. You know, we just
it's too much. Because in River G, I saw a senator, and the senator says the people receive 20,000 Liberian dollars. That's less than $100.
Yeah.
All right. So you give the people $20,000. You polluting the water. You breaking down their villages. And I said, but then who took the people there? And the senator said he doesn't know. Okay, how will you be a representative or senator and you do not know who took the people on your village to do the illicit mining?
Let me tell y'all
George,
something.
yeah, George, end your point there. With 10 minutes over, so we
I
can move
seen
on to Mohammed, and then Tamara will end us, take us home.
our government need. I know we said we don't need any more agencies, and we need to cut back on most of these agencies just so we can have proper money to actually regulate things. But concerning villages, right? Our government needs to set up some type of agency that's outside of the government. It can even be a private entity that works on behalf of the people in the village to negotiate the MOUs with them. Because I seen an MOU last week where somebody negotiated for a palava hut. In that same MOU, it said, yeah, I swear for a palava hut, 2025, they said, yeah, y'all supposed to build our palava hut. Then they said they wanted a guest room with 9 bedrooms in it. It's in the middle of the bush. Nobody's coming there. Why do y'all need a guest room? No, the guest room with 3 bedrooms in the school with nine classrooms. And I explained to them, I said, let me tell y'all something. Where we're at, because my farm is 4 miles from this place. I said, where we're at, even if somebody built a state-of-the-art school for you, nobody is coming here to educate your children because the environment is not conducive to someone who can properly educate these children. You need to do negotiations with these people. If you're going to allow them to do money, do negotiations where at least you bring in the environment up to standard to allow these people to increase their livelihood and their quality of life. So if I have running water, if I have villas, if I'm able to present an opportunity for somebody abroad where I said, you come here and I got a farm to market. I mean, not farm to market, but a farm to table experience for you where you're going to be teaching my kids or you're going to be running this clinic here, but you're living free and you have all your necessities right here. Who won't jump at the opportunity? There's even websites that allow children in college to opt into these types of opportunities. But if we sit here and allow unqualified individuals who are not looking towards the future to say, yeah, I want a palava hut. Oh yeah, I want 5 hand pumps. What good is the hand pump if they're mining, they're putting mercury in the river? Now when you put the hand pump there, the water table already disturbed. These are not things in all these MOUs, all these MDAs protect these people from our law. The same thing with the ArcelorMittal MDA. And when you look at it, it says that if anything here doesn't agree with the law, well, this agreement supersedes the law. How is that even possible? So do we want sovereignty as Liberians, or do we want to create this state where we keep acting like we need help from people when we're the ones with the resources? That's all I have to say. I don't want to.
Yeah, thank you, George. You make a great point as I go to Mommy. Let me tell you my own experience. Where I'm from, look, we call it local government, guys, because of exactly what you're saying. The people go in there and negotiate in bad faith. They carry the big Liberian dollars, Ali is saying 25,000 a year, 50,000. The locals, they threaten the local government official to try and come and negotiate or batter these people because these people are taking care of them. And like we're saying, what are they giving the people? The equivalent of maybe $250, they come and take over the whole place and they do so much damage that lasts, a lifetime. But anyway, Mohammed, this is our problem, my brother. Please chime in, then we can go to Mr. Kamara to close us up.
It's a problem. You're not going to go to China as a black man.
No, you can't go and do that.
Those things, right? You're not going to be able to do that because they know better. We don't know better. So what I hear right now is the failure of leadership at all levels, the legislative level as well, executive, legislative. So what is preventing our legislators from making the necessary laws to protect these villages? Nothing is preventing them. Nobody is preventing them from making laws. They've chosen not to because they're in the pockets of these, investors. What is preventing our legislators from nationalizing certain sectors of our economy? You're not just going to leave the door wide open to, privatization. What is the reason why? I go back to my original point. What is the reason why we're not able to make some of these things in Liberia so that it's made in Liberia? There is no creativity, no creativity around anything that we do. So we live day by day because someone else did it before us. So we're going to do it the same way. It's the reason why for 178 or 180 years, It's things have been the same. There have been spots. They've been, they've been, decades, years where there were promises in between those 180 years. But it's like we took one step forward and 200 steps backwards. And oh, don't get me started, because by the time you hit 1980, the move backwards was really enormous. I mean, we're still paying for what happened in 1980. So whatever is going on now in these villages, and the lawmakers, the policy, those who enforce, those who are supposed to enforce, they're not enforcing because of greed. It's the same greed that we've talked about. These people are getting super wealthy. They've been paid very well, and yet they still collect these bribes, and to the detriment of the poor people. And look, election after election, you elect the same people. The Constitution is bad. How many times I should say it? It's a bad Constitution you have. You keep these people in office forever, right? You keep your senators in office forever. You keep members of the House of Representatives in office forever. It seems like you keep your president in office forever. 12 years, 2 terms is very long. 9 years for senator is too long. When are these people going to get up? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because the people are, it seems like the people are very content. And it's not content just for the purpose of being content. People are not educated to these things. And so the ruling elite keep our people uneducated so that they're not able, because you don't have, for the most part, you don't have an informed citizenry. And so they're not going to react to anything. And this is going to go on. How is it that a Chinese citizen is allowed to roam the entire country, from Bapulu to now, River G County? How is he allowed to do that? I heard in one of the counties he was already in trouble, but he's allowed now.
Yeah, this guy, I forget, Mohammed, he calls himself by something and the real official, something.
The real minister.
Exactly.
Because
can you go into China and do that?
You cannot do that. You can't do that. So it's mind-boggling. It's really frustrating.
You know what's funny? The point where we're supposed to be, when somebody, a petty thief, steals something in Liberia, we beat that person to a pulp. The point we're supposed to arrest somebody and say, we cannot let you go until officials get here. We just let them slide by. But imagine somebody going to steal something.
When it comes to that,
no, but I say officials can take them there.
There's an inferiority complex in dealing with people that they see with fair skin. That's one. And then I just wanted to say something behind what Mr. Sharif said. I don't even believe that the ruling class purposely keeps people uneducated. What we have here in Liberia is people love to root for the underdog. They rather elect somebody that they can relate to. You understand? And they don't understand that that person might lack morality, might lack integrity. So when this person gets money now, this person is just like, oh, this is the most money I ever seen in my life. Let me close the door behind me. I gotta make sure nobody else gets a whiff of this money. But the person who elected him there did it solely because they felt like, oh, when I put my guy there in that representative seat, when I put my guy there in that senator, I'm gonna have personal access to him. That's why when you go down to Capitol Hill, you see people just waiting outside there trying to catch a glimpse of somebody that they voted for because they feel like they have a personal connection with the person and they can borrow from them when they need. They're not thinking about the future. It's only the people outside, or it's a small percentage of people here, and mostly Liberians in the diaspora who thinking, oh, yeah, like the country's going to get better. We need to think like this. But they're sending this money back home as well. And they need to realize the people you're sending your money back home to aren't thinking for the future. So when you get ready to retire, it won't be no country here for you.
How about this, right? So on a forum like this, I know we're about to wind down. We're winding down. On a forum like this, when you have people who even watch this, in leadership and government, what you hear sometimes is, oh, these people know too much. So education is even, it's even detested. among the ruling elite. Oh, these people know too much. They know too much pork. Who did these people think?
But Mr.
That's
Mr.
the
Sweet,
thing.
when
When
we
you
were
go,
dealing, if this was like the U.S., right, where we're dealing with a government full of Ivy League graduates with global exposure, I would agree with you. But as it stands, we don't even know who can read and write in our government. So it's no conspiracy. They just they put too many
I think Mr. Kamara who is here on set with us will vehemently disagree.
He left. He left.
He left.
Brother Kamara is very well
prioritize
informed.
education until they get money and then they send their children abroad. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you already an adult and you got to your position of power without being educated, then why would you put hundreds of millions of dollars into the education sector once you get it wasn't a part. That's not what you use to get in your position. That's why I don't think it's a conspiracy where they're trying
you do make a great point, George. Some of them do act like they can't even read it, right? I agree with you. Sometimes you wonder when some of these decisions are made, you wonder how much thought has been put into it.
But look at the doctor. If you see the BBC article where the so-called doctor was responding, by what he said, you can tell that he's illiterate. The way how he responded to BBC on a BBC platform would tell you this guy can't write.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much, Mr. Kamara. I wonder whether the sound is coming from you. Can you hear us?
I'm getting the feedback.
Yeah, it looks like it's coming from you. We wanted to give you the last word. Can you go out and come back real quickly?
Okay.
Yeah, ladies, Alice and gentlemen, thank you very so much. I know we've gone about almost 30 minutes over, but I think the discussion has been so lively and very informative. I think the audience have also stuck with us for the duration of this. Thank you so much. I wanted Mr. Kamara to come in and give us his own thoughts on this whole illegal mining, because he is in the concession management business as well. He was talking about the various categories of licenses that they issue, how these people don't even understand what class A or class B or class C license it is, and most of our people go to the ministry looking for class C license, which only allows them to do the artisanal mining or whatever that is. I thought he wanted to come. If he cannot come back, then maybe we will save him for another show. We'll give him a minute or so. If he doesn't come back, then we'll shut it down. But thank you so much. I think another great one in the books. And George, this is my first time being on set with you. You brought a lot tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
I hope you'll be available going forward to join us. Thank you so much. For a guy who looks so young, but you're very wise man, and a lot of experience too. Yeah. So, all right, looks like Mr. Kamara is having trouble coming back. On this note, I think we'll close it out. Gabe, I think you are producing for tonight. Thank you very much, Mr. Kamara. If you're hearing us, we have another show coming up tomorrow morning at about 10 o'clock, I believe it is.
10 o'clock, which is 2 o'clock Liberian time.
2 o'clock Liberian time. That one is also relayed on the radio back home. If you have the time, Mr. Kamara, maybe they'll send you a link.
There's another one at 3 o'clock.
Yes.
The time here, which is 7 o'clock time, which is we're going to be talking to a gentleman a friend of mine who actually started a credit union in Liberia. So I want to talk to him and see how he did that. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I saw the post in the chat room. I definitely will tune in tomorrow. I want to get some insights into what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen and lady, that being said, thank you ever so much.
Yeah. Thank you all. As we always say, we'll close with a song that says we're all Liberians. Thank you. George, brilliant. Hopefully we'll get to see you often.
Thank you. I'll make sure I'll try.
Ciao, everyone.
Appreciate you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.